Minnesota's history is WCCO's history, and to celebrate, we're reflecting on where we've been, who we've met, how we've changed, and why we continue to do what we do. First, we go to Don Shelby, who tells us about his experience going to Romania and filming the Iron Crib.
Yeah, the Iron Crib. I still hear, Frank and Amelia, I still hear from people.
Even 34 years later, Don Shelby's trip to Romania is still making an impact.
160 children live here, infants to 3 years old. They've spent most of their lives in these rooms.
The story was called The Iron Crib, and it changed the lives of thousands of orphans.
Any of these babies would be wonderful. There's not one I've seen yet that I wouldn't want to take home.
Don followed several couples as they adopted children into a loving home in Minnesota.
And he wouldn't have been alive, he said, if it wasn't for our story.
We also brought viewers to the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989.
And a WCCO television news team is in Berlin tonight.
Reporter Tom Stewart and his team captured emotional reunions as Germany was reunified.
It's just been chaotic, and yet it's been wonderful because nothing seems to matter except what matters, that the wall has been opened.
Good morning, Vietnam!
In 1969, WCCO set out to document Minnesota soldiers fighting in the Vietnam War.
He is called Grunt. He is a combat soldier, the Marine in a line company.
We're Americans and they're Vietnamese, and we sort of work things a little bit different than they do, but other than that, we work fairly well together.
The award-winning documentary Grunt's Little War shared the gritty and sometimes strange realities of war. On several occasions, WCCO has embedded with the Minnesota National Guard. Don Shelby and photojournalist Tom Aviles traveled to Iraq in 2009.
And when would that be dated?
Dated to 2048 BC.
And had the opportunity to visit one of the oldest standing artifacts on Earth.
We got to get down the mountain. Here we go, guys.
And just last year, Tom and Reg Chapman spent a week with the Minnesota National Guard on a training trip in Norway.
The reindeer meat is what I'm tasting, and it kind of gives me energy.
WCCO has also taken viewers to some of the biggest sporting events of our time.
And welcome to Wembley Stadium for the first National Football League game ever played on British soil.
In 1980, Mark Rosen witnessed history firsthand.
Do you believe in miracles? The 1980 Olympics will always top my list when I get asked all the time, what was the best event, greatest event you ever covered? I said, well, I was there for the Miracle on Ice.
Look at these people here. Everybody was for USA, and we finally did it.
The electricity in the air that night was unlike anything I had seen previously or since. I mean, my ears were almost bleeding from the noise level.
30 years ago, a series of stories brought out smiles in children quite literally. We followed a Minnesota medical team to Venezuela for Operation Smile, an important mission to repair cleft lips and palates.
Before they were deformed, and later they're this whole person. It is the essence of rebirth.
These stories led to more than $200,000 in donations for more surgeries. Esme Murphy, WCCO News.
WCCO has been on the front lines of Minnesota news since 1949, from the Metrodome collapse to Prince's death to the civil unrest that followed the death of George Floyd. Here are some of the biggest stories our alumni and current staff reported on.
I know it's hard with all of your experience, but most significant news stories that you've covered.
Jacob Wetterling pops into my head.
Many Minnesotans remember the kidnapping case that forever changed how we raise our children. Jacob Wetterling's abduction in October of 1989 set off a haunting mystery for 27 years.
Joe and I were there when it happened, covering that, and we covered it on the day he was discovered, or his remains were discovered. And that's one of the stories that just hits you.
In 2016, Danny Heinrich confessed to Jacob's murder and led detectives to his body.
The only time I wished I was back on the air was right then.
Yeah.
Right now, the world remembers Minnesota's superstar.
Prince's death in 2016 shocked the world and Minnesota because he was one of us. A few years later, we uncovered a hidden gem in the WCCO archives.
And I think they should get some more money because they be working extra hours for us and all that stuff.
Film of a young Prince from 1970 that went viral around the world. In August 2007, chaos erupted during the height of rush hour through the heart of Minneapolis.
And we have some breaking news to tell you about. A bridge collapsed at 35W and University Avenue.
WCCO reporter Jason DeRusha and photojournalist Brad Early were among the first on the scene.
Do we have Jason on the line?
Yeah, Frank, I just got here. The scene is pretty unbelievable.
And it was quiet. Just dead silence. The destruction was unbelievable. Not even a siren had started yet.
The image of that bus clinging to that sloping cement slab is one that will stick with all of us.
13 people were killed and 145 were injured that day. The rebuilt bridge opened just 13 months later.
This is a city street intersection that just a day ago was dry.
In April 1997, WCCO crews spent weeks covering the floods that devastated Grand Forks, North Dakota.
How surreal was it to see downtown Grand Forks on fire during a flood? I'll never forget that.
The Red River seeped through the entire city, forcing 70,000 people out of their homes.
And then we went back year after year after year to see the rebuilding process.
And once again, the Minnesota Twins are baseball's world champions.
Twins fans will never forget the excitement of winning 2 World Series titles in 4 years.
You know, 87 was different because it was the first time in a long time, so the fans were just crazy.
Hundreds of thousands of fans packed the streets to celebrate the home team.
Stay off the roads if you don't have to be there.
Just 2 days after the 1991 parade, Minnesota was hit with that winter storm we still love to talk about.
I was going on a limb saying 3 to 6.
3 to 6 inches or 3 to 6 feet?
3 to 6 inches.
Okay.
We got a little more than that, nearly 29 inches over 3 days.
So all of these things, we have highs and lows, and we are always there at CCO. We're always right there.
Don Shelby, Dave Moore, Mark Rosen, these are only a few of the names that have become part of the very fabric of WCCO. Here's what current and past alumni have to say about their coworkers, or as they say, their family.
You mentioned family, and that's one thing that I think we can all agree on is that CCO is like a family.
I spent more time with my coworkers at WCCO television than I did with my own family.
I don't think I really refer to anybody, and this goes from people on camera, behind the camera, as my coworkers. They're my friends.
Think about the legacy that this station has. I mean, how many people come up to you and say, I used to watch when Dave Moore, do you remember Dave Moore?
And Dave for the season's opener, which saw which...
He wasn't the first, but WCCO legend Dave Moore will always be remembered as one of Minnesota's best.
So often I get the question, is Bud Kraling really a weatherman, or does he just read some information prepared for him by someone else? Where do you get your weather from, Bud?
Well, a lot of it comes out of the West.
For decades, Dave and his longtime on-air partner Bud Kraling brought Minnesotans the news and weather with their signature Happy Talk. What families saw on TV extended to the WCCO family off camera.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Dave Moore knew me by first name within the first hour of working there.
Just having him in the news, having Dave Moore in the newsroom forced you to watch your P's and Q's as you were doing your job. You just knew that he was big on getting it right and not taking himself or letting us take ourselves too seriously.
Sadly, I never had the opportunity to meet Dave Moore, but I will tell you, he still looms large as a presence here.
In 1985, Dave passed the anchor chair to another WCCO legend, Don Shelby, who carried on that legacy behind the scenes.
He taught me most about trying to keep that family atmosphere.
And I think you did a really good job. I think that's what our newsroom is like to this day.
Yeah, it's an important piece of the culture.
Absolutely.
Dave and Don laid a foundation for the hundreds of other faces you've welcomed into your homes over the last 75 years.
WCCO.
There are simply too many to name.
You liked the people, and it was like a family. And so I always wondered if that was why I stayed in it, because I happened to come to the right station by fate or whatever.
The station is in good hands for the next 75 years and beyond.
And we have great young reporters that are coming in now, and the people who are, who are ending our career, hopefully.
We're just the caretakers of this time in WCCO's history.
The history, the legacy of WCCO, it doesn't get any more Minnesotan than that.
And the stories keep changing, but it's good people, and that's WCCO. It's the people. It's the people inside that building who care every day and come in every day.
WCCO emerged in a world of black and white. Literally, color television wasn't available until nearly 2 decades after WCCO's first newscast in 1949. Here's what some of our alumni had to say about the way technology has changed the landscape of news reporting.
And it was just a great time to be in the business.
I'm ancient, but I started my career when it was still black and white film.
We had typewriters. We did not have laptops yet. The computer hadn't been invented.
Basically, we had pagers. That's about
pagers, right?
the only way they could get a hold of us.
The technology we use has come a long way over 75 years. Most of it is much smaller now, meaning a lot less to drag around.
The weight, how much was the first camera, how much did that weigh, do you think?
Well, let's see, we're back to them, so it's probably, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds.
Okay,
But you also had the recording deck. You had a deck you had to carry.
And things have changed so much.
It was tape to tape when we got here. Now everything's done on the computer.
We used to have a light and a sound guy and a camera guy. Back in the day.
Yeah, and now you have a lot of people that are doing all of that in one.
But things have definitely improved. Yeah, satellite trucks, right? You'd have a big satellite truck meet you at the scene and beam that up to a satellite and back to Earth.
These days, we don't need a big satellite truck to pull off a live shot. The equipment is now smaller than a backpack.
That was then, and so this is now. And I'm good to go do a network broadcast.
Anywhere in the country.
Anywhere in the country where there's decent cell service. And just me and the reporter.
That helicopter was a game changer. You know, to be able to fly all over and land.
The WCCO chopper took our coverage to new heights. It was a pivotal tool for our crews covering the Grand Forks floods in a time crunch.
I had my ball glove with me, so Captain Dale would shoot the aerials and then would hover over where we would be stationed and drop the tape, and I would catch it in my ball glove and then run back, and we would hot roll it.
One of the biggest changes in technology is streaming.
Now from the WCCO Live Desk, you're watching
Our streaming service, CBS News Minnesota, launched a few years ago, and it now brings viewers closer to the action live as it happens.
As much change as we've gone through with the technology, the job is still exactly what it was back then. I mean, we are going out and collecting information and telling people stories. You know, it's still the same. That's why I love it.
Heather Brown, WCCO News.
We've been a lot of places in 75 years, seen a lot of things, talked to a lot of people, but the reason why we keep coming back every day, our why, has never changed.
Going to the lake.
Going to the lake.
You know that sound. WCCO is going to the lake this summer.
Yeah, we are so happy to be back in your community, soaking in the summer moments together.
WCCO has been going to the lake for more than a decade now.
We're at Music on the River here in Amory, Wisconsin.
This is the weekend and the time to come to Silver Lake because of the big festival they have going on.
We're driving in your car. We hit the road to show off the hidden gems in Minnesota and western Wisconsin.
Oh my God, that's pretty fun.
I caught something. Oh, see, I told Chris it was going to happen.
We love to highlight what makes these communities unique and why it's worth making the trip yourself.
The people that come out because you're in a town and you're not there for something bad. And I've always believed that that's worth its weight in gold.
Each holiday season, we work to lift up Minnesota's veterans with our Home for the Holidays campaign.
Home for the Holidays was great.
Home for the Holidays is one of the best things that we do all year long. Bringing the veterans in, the stories that they share with us, they share with you. I love it.
We partner with the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, and they work to provide security and stability for hundreds of service members experiencing or at risk of homelessness.
They feel comfortable with Reg to share their story with Reg because they see Reg is a member of this community. Reg is invested in this community, and we can trust him. People can trust people here at this station.
So many of you also helped us thank our veterans in 2015. A record-breaking 125,000 people signed our More Than Names flag, a massive banner of support.
We've changed laws. We put people in jail. We did all of these things properly. They just did amazing work.
WCCO's I-Team was one of the first investigative units in the country. For more than 32 years, the I-Team's reports uncovered corruption and helped protect Minnesota families.
What an enthusiastic crowd. Welcome back, everybody, to WCCO at the fair.
I think CCO did the state fair better than any station in town.
And we've been doing it for decades now.
We want to welcome everybody to the 1986 Minnesota State Fair, especially our crowd that we have here tonight.
The Minnesota State Fair has always been and will always be a chance for us to spend some time together. Whether sharing a bite to eat,
we're breaking it in,
hopping on a bike to help power a newscast,
be like the turtle, slow and steady.
Go ahead and do it.
Or sinking us at the dunk tank.
Did the water go up your nose again?
Again, for the third time.
They are all memories we've created with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I missed the dunk tank.
We should bring that back for.
Oh gosh,
come on.
Here we go.
Thanks for being with us tonight. Good night.
Bye-bye, everybody.
AJ Hilton, WCCO News.